Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Israel Policy Forum's Digital Director, Eli Kowaz, and joining us today is our Israel fellow, Nimrod Novik from Israel. And we're going to just discuss the recent developments in Israel today with the settlement legalization bill, which passed in the Knesset today by a vote of 58 to 52. We're going to talk about the repercussions, what it means. We're also going to talk about Avigdor Lieberman and his proposal to Donald Trump to recognize settlement blocs in return for a building freeze on isolated settlements. So Nimrod, thank you, Toda, for joining us. Let's start by just getting your thoughts on this bill, what it means. I know Moshe Kachlon was on the fence about supporting it or not. It seems like Netanyahu thinks it won't carry much weight, but love to get your thoughts.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. The bill that passed, and it only passed in preliminary reading, is really a microcosmos of the degree of cynicism that Israeli politics undergoes these days. As they were pushing, as the coalition was pushing for the bill to pass its preliminary reading, they intimated quite clearly that they don't intend to pursue this legislation, certainly not under the current terms of the bill. Indeed, in order to get Kachlon on board, they had to commit that there will be nothing in the bill that is offensive vis-a-vis the High Court, our Supreme Court, and that language or that phrase encapsulates a very clear objection to trying to override the Supreme Court's decision on Amona. The process of Amona has been taken years. We are past the final ruling of the Supreme Court, and therefore Amona is not going to be salvaged by the law that was introduced in order to save Amona. It was a cynical effort by a competition between Netanyahu and Bennett. Neither wanted to be responsible for the need to remove Amona or move Amona to a different location. So they thought of forcing it upon the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court will be blamed with the ultimate result. In any event, the talk in town is that the bill will not go beyond the preliminary readings. I'm not sure if it will or won't, but it was a very cynical effort for Bennett and Netanyahu to appeal to the extreme right voting bloc.
Thank you. So, I'd also like to ask you about, yesterday there was a piece in the Arts by Yossi Verter about something like this being able to topple the Netanyahu government. In this case, it clearly hasn't, or it hasn't yet. Do you see that in the foreseeable future, especially now with the Trump presidency, of something of this nature from Netanyahu's right bringing down this government and this coalition?
Look, all our governments that most of them have not completed their four-year term fell on marginal issues, nothing earth-shattering, not on peace or war or anything of that nature. So I cannot predict what will end the term of the current coalition. What we do see is that the fighting is less between coalition and opposition, partly because our opposition is so pale and lifeless, but partly because perhaps elements in the coalition smell the air of elections and are jockeying for positions in a way that may undermine the cohesiveness of the fragile cohesiveness of the coalition. But I would say that the election of Trump only exacerbated that phenomenon, or that dynamic, because early reaction among the Gang of 38 or Gang of 43, depends how many you count in the coalition who oppose to a two-state solution, who are a minority in the Knesset, but a majority in the coalition. The reaction was so enthusiastic and so euphoric that unless the president-elect sends messages, the kind that Lieberman suggested he already had received, unless he send a very clear message that if Israel goes crazy, his administration will not be able to roll over and play dead. He wants to be probably Israel's best friend in the White House ever, as every president in recent history. But there is a limit to what the U.S. can tolerate, given the consequences elsewhere in areas that are of interest to strategic interest to the United States, like elements in the Arab world and so forth. So, if these guys who really they don't have the inner mechanism to stop at red light, if they keep on provoking and testing the limits, they may reach a point where the coalition may not survive.
And taking that into account, what do you think of Lieberman's proposal that he suggested today about U.S. recognition under Trump's presidency of the settlement blocs in return for Israel to halt all construction of isolated settlements and outposts? Do you think that's something that benefits the future of a two-state solution, or would it be detrimental?
No, I think, taken against the backdrop of the mood in the Republican Party, if you remember the platform where any reference to the two-state solution was removed, the mood in the Israeli coalition we just talked about briefly. Against that backdrop, anything that comes from a central player in the coalition, more due to his personality than anything else, that is in line with the concept of the two-state solution, I think is very important and constructive. Lieberman, without hesitation, in one breath, suggested a specific policy, but that policy derives from a commitment to the two-state solution. So I thought that, once again, Lieberman demonstrated the pragmatic streak in his personality and politics. The man is capable, of course, of outrageous statements and racist policies and so on. But on the other hand, when it comes not to statements, but not to statements that express sentiment, but statements that express policy, he proves to be far more pragmatic than he has been given credit for. That's the overall picture. So, concerning the specific statement that he made, now I give Lieberman the credit that he understands that what he suggested, that is to reiterate U.S. commitment to the exchange of letters between Sharon and Bush 43rd in 2004, that Lieberman knows that what he said and what's written in the letter are not the same. It's a nice gimmick. It's a language that appeals to certain electorate and so on. So while suggesting a move that is a revival of a commitment to the two-state solution, he did it in a way that softens the blow from his coalition partners. It's interesting to note the two reactions thus far. One came from Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Tzipi Hotovely, who came out with a very tough statement that Lieberman is undermining his strategic interests and does not speak for the government. Now, it will take a lot for Lieberman to take notice of Hotovely or be concerned by what she says. On the other hand, the Prime Minister's office intimated to the media a very interesting statement, saying basically that the Prime Minister will listen to all ministers and will strike the deal with President Trump when the time comes. On the one hand, he did not endorse what Lieberman was saying, but it's interesting that under present circumstances, where he is more concerned with Bennett's appeal to the right, which is his base, he did not bother to distance himself from the Lieberman statement.
Maybe I just want to go back to the bill. I just want to get your opinion on the opposition within the Knesset. So we know Herzog referred to this bill as the Knesset's bill of horror. Ilan Gilon of Meretz walked out during today's session. I mean, what has their messaging really been? Or has this been was this a bill of grave concern, or was just another kind of thing that the right was trying to push through?
Look, no, it was great concern. Look, the legislation that was offered and passed in a preliminary vote is an outrageous legislation. It is illegal by Israeli legal standards. It is contrary to international law. And, you know, it is almost worse than illegal. It is stupid because it may end up in a situation where you pass a preliminary, you don't pursue it, but you do get the reaction, the angry reaction of the international community. It's a reckless move. Those who promoted it, certainly Bennett and the Likudniks, they know that law is not going to save Amona from living up to the ruling of the Supreme Court. And if you know it, and you're just doing it in order to release steam or appeal to your base and take the heat from the international community for it, it is both outrageous and stupid.
So maybe let's end with one final question, the big unknown, but if anybody knows, it's probably you. What do you see the future of a Trump-Netanyahu relationship? What is the atmosphere in Israel surrounding Trump's surprise election last Tuesday? And do you think this kills the prospect of a two-state solution once and for all, or is there a reason for us to be, or please give us reason to be optimistic?
Well, you asked two questions in one. Let me take care of the first one, and that is this the end of the two-state solution or not? I happen to believe firmly that there is no alternative to the two-state solution. That the only question is, do we get there after a major bloodbath, or are we smart enough to get there before? I don't think that there will ever be a situation where Israelis will agree to be a minority in their own country, or the Palestinians will accept forever to be second-class citizens in an apartheid situation. Neither will the international community. Today, the international community is busy elsewhere. Tomorrow, who knows? In any event, I don't think that there is such a thing as a one-state solution. I think we will part with the Palestinians. We will bleed each other to part, or we will do it wisely. So that just to put aside that issue. Concerning the Netanyahu-Trump relations, well, first, I hope you will delete this once I'm proven wrong. And second, I would venture a prediction that it will be the opposite of Netanyahu's relations with Obama. Netanyahu's relations with Obama were I would characterize on two levels. Personally, it was awful. Policy, in terms of the U.S. commitment to Israel's security, it was like never before. Not that I expect the U.S. commitment to Israel's security to diminish, but I expect a perhaps amicable personal relations, but with much friction on policy, which is contrary to the conventional wisdom right now. You know, again, if the likes of what's his name, Frank Gaffney, if the likes of Frank Gaffney are studied all over the administration, then who knows? This is going to be. I will be more worried about the well-being of the United States and the world than specifically on Israel. But assuming that there will be a balance between conspiracy theorists, people who are driven by, like Gaffney, by nonsense, and pragmatists from the traditional Republican environment, we may see a balanced policy, but we really have to wait the weeks and months until we know who the key personalities are before we can pass a judgment on who is Donald Trump as president and what his relations with Netanyahu will be.